Hello, I'm very pleased to give a presentation on mega cruise tourism and overtourism in Souq Muttrah, the Sultanate of Oman. My name is Manuela Gutberlet. I'm currently working as an independent researcher and PR manager at the German University of Technology in Oman, and I'm research affiliate at the University of Johannesburg, Department of Tourism and Hospitality. My research has been focusing on the socio-cultural impacts of cruise tourism here in Oman based on two case studies. One is Souq Muttrah, just opposite to the cruise terminal, and the other is in Sharqiya Sands in the interior of the country, where I've been studying as well the tourist experience and cultural ecosystem services and imaginaries. Until the current corona pandemic, large-scale cruise tourism has been one of the emerging sectors worldwide, especially in the Middle East and in Asia. According to the World Tourism Organization, the Middle East and Asia have been the world's fastest emerging tourism markets. In the following, I will analyze the urban physical space, local community perceptions, and behaviors with respect to mega cruise tourism. My presentation explores the impacts of overtourism and changing authenticities in an emerging cruise destination. I have conducted intensive qualitative and quantitative research from 2012 onwards. I briefly give you a short introduction. Compared to 17.8 million cruise passengers in 2009, a total of 30 million passengers were traveling worldwide with the cruise ships in 2019. A total of 476 mega cruise ships carrying between 3,000 to 5,000 tourists were operational last year. The National Tourism Strategy 2040, the Ministries of Tourism long-term vision, was launched in 2016. Its target is to increase the number of international tourist arrivals to 11.7 million by 2040 in Oman, and to increase the tourism sector share of the GDP to over 6%. You can see in 2005 there were around 1 million tourists, and 2019 around 3.5 million tourists arriving in Oman. Mega cruise tourism is seen as an economic tool to boost the local economy, create jobs for the youth, and to publicize the country's natural resources, the general hospitality of the people, and the history of the country. Detailed studies on mega cruise tourism, their social impacts on local communities, and the tangible and intangible assets are little worldwide and practically non-existent in the Arab world. Here you can see the number of cruise tourists last year was around nearly 300,000 tourists arriving in Oman, and when I started my research in 2012 was 250,000. The cruise tourists that arrive in Muscat usually they start from Dubai. They're doing a circular itinerary from Dubai, Muscat, where they stay just 8 to 10 hours. Then they travel to Manama, Bahrain, sometimes to Qatar, Doha, then to Abu Dhabi, and back to Dubai. Oman is part of a Cruise Arabia Alliance. That's a cooperation of the GCC countries to promote cruise tourism. I briefly explain the concepts. Cruising has become a reflection of liquid modernity, a concept that was framed by Zygmunt Bauman while developing into a multi-billion-dollar business. Through globalization, cruise liners disconnect from local social relations, the culture, and the people. This phenomenon reflects postmodernity and the effects of globalization and faster means of communication, resulting in a change in travel and tourism behavior, increased market segmentation, and the production of tourism products to be consumed within a short time. It also illustrates the increase in short and inexpensive travel within enclosed, isolated environments such as hotel resorts or cruise ships. Cruise ships are controlled, closed spaces or tourist enclaves where tourists are shielded from negative situations and where locals are usually not allowed to enter. Spontaneous contact or experiences with the local people are avoided or staged within the bubble. Researchers have mentioned spatial challenges facing cruise destinations regarding overtourism, which means the physical and social carrying capacity, the overall ability to accommodate increased tourist numbers, and megaships. The concept of overtourism is linked to an unregulated capital accumulation and growth strategy. The selling out of cities like commodities, or overtourism is associated with unsustainable tourism, and concepts like visitor pressure or the level of acceptable change and the social and physical carrying capacity of space. On the other hand, referring to the social exchange theory, host communities will be more supportive of tourism development when they participate and benefit from tourism. Residents in cruise destinations in Europe like Venice or Barcelona have raised their voices against cruise liners through antisocial tourism movements or tourism phobia. Outspoken community resistance against cruise tourism has not been observed on the Arabian Peninsula and in particular not in Oman. I will explain my methods that I've used. My research is based on my continuous insider observations on the site, ethnography, photography, and active in-depth interviews, as well informal conversations conducted with different stakeholders of the community in Souq Muttrah, especially in recent years. I've started in 2012 and then between 2012 and 2014 and then again 2017 to 2019. But I've also conducted quantitative research, especially in the beginning of my research, compared to most of the research on tourism and community perceptions, which are of quantitative nature. My research now draws mainly on long-term qualitative fieldwork to operationalize the concepts of overtourism within cruise development in space and in time. Throughout the interviews that I've done, I've applied a social constructivist approach where the responses are valued as allowing insights to the construction of personal life experience and the personal narratives about the Souq and the individual world making of the place. Participant observation and ethnography can reveal which environments are important for different stakeholders and how they are interpreted. They also reveal unexpected ways and how locals go about their everyday lives. Through my long-term research and immersion into the place, a continuous holistic understanding of the social changes and different authenticities that are occurring in Souq Muttrah can help to uncover overtourism and the social organization of the tourist site while giving recommendations for the visitor and site management. At the same time, my research can help to preserve the local character for future generations. I will now come to the results. Compared to other European destinations that suffer from overtourism, where it's difficult to determine the actors of disturbances, tourists in Oman are easy to differentiate from locals by their dress and other behaviors. During the tourist season in 2019, 7 years since the start of my fieldwork, I noticed that the place had increasingly developed into a tourist bubble or tourist enclave, promoting touristified hybrid spaces and culture. Along with the change in the built identity of the place, materialized in the interior design of shops and their architecture, the first international fast food chain opened along the corniche of Souq Muttrah at the beginning of 2017. This confirms an increased standardization of the food production within a neoliberal globalized economy where there's less room for conventional meal composed of local food and drinks. In the past, for example, Omani coffee sellers shaped the image of Souq Muttrah. Omani black coffee with cardamom and as well dates, local dates, are part of the natural, genuine Omani hospitality and the local community spirit, originally offered free of charge and thereby shaping local identities. The coffee seller connected the local people, community life, and a slower lifestyle, while having time for interpersonal relations within a coffee break and an exchange of news. The space now has been changed into increasingly into globalized and space and operationalized in a monoculture of shops and restaurants, and the shops selling cheap international tourist souvenirs like pashmina scarves or belly dancing costumes, fridge magnets, and so on, instead of locally produced handicraft. Here you can see a photo of the changes in space, the architecture, the interior and design is more simple now compared to a few years ago. And I observed as well that some of the local antiquity and local grocery shop owners had shut down, while others had also changed the profile of their products to cater to the mass tourist demand, omitting items including traditional and local handicraft offered in the past. There are still some items, like you can see here in the photo, frankincense on the right side that is sold by Omanis from Salalah in the south, and as well in the middle you can see dry lemon and dry chili sold in a small grocery shop. But the other photos show, rather international shops selling cheaper souvenirs or textiles from Asia. The Asian vendor community has adjusted their selling behavior as well and language skills, praising the items aggressively and as well in several languages, in German, English, Italian and other languages, which was not the case a few years ago. The Omani director of a museum in Souq Muttrah, whom I had interviewed in 2012, also mentioned that now in January 2019, 4 large cruise liner arrived at the same time, which is very new. And toward the end of 2018, it started that the cruise liner port became a home port for several ships. So this highlights as well the increased role of cruise liners in the port of Muscat, and as Muscat as a destination for the cruise liner industry. As a consequence, overcrowding has been observed by shopkeepers along the main tourist street, the tourist bubble. Sometimes more than 3,000 people pass in front of our shop within one day, said a young expatriate vendor. So mainly the consumption of the tourist is visual, and they don't spend a lot, just a few rial, and then they go back to the cruise liner. Since local currency is Omani rial is also not available on board the cruise ships, some shops in Souq Muttrah have adjusted their currency, indicating the prices in euro and in dollar. One newly established shop at the Corniche Road even displays different currencies on their counter, creating a hybrid monetary space. As in conclusion, it is evident that globalization, large-scale tourism, and the occurrence of overtourism enhances a deterioration of capital, labor, and touristic place itself, thus disconnecting social relations, the history, and the lack of stability within overconsumption and an increasingly artificial and closed space like Souq Muttrah as well, similar to a shopping mall or a theme park. The research suggests that local authenticities are diverse while adjusting to the increase in tourism. The local community, in particular the vendors and the residents, adjust in their everyday lives to mega cruise tourism development, the increasing number of tourists and their demand for staged authenticity, including cheap products as well as oriental narratives and imaginaries. For most well-established interviewees, Souq Muttrah is about participating in an ongoing dynamic cultural historical process or legacy while struggling to protect their own identities in space within a neoliberal development that increasingly also fragments the society. As you can see, there's a monoculture of shops, and there's a loss of traditionals and values, and well-established vendor community leaves. Cruise tourists and cruise companies are actively involved in the creation and consumption of a new hybrid culture. The culture in Souq Muttrah is transformed into new configuration of diversity, where the concept of homogeneous Omani culture is redefined. The future of a sustainable tourism development in Souq Muttrah lies in the active participation and in the power of brokers and locals, but as well of the cruise liners themselves. Currently, the area in Souq Muttrah is locked down and cruise liners are not allowed to enter the country since March. I think future research could be done on undertourism and the impacts of the current pandemic. By the way, if there's any interest in research cooperations, please let me know and contact me via my email address. If there are any questions as well, please ask me or contact me via email. All my papers are also available on ResearchGate, or just send me an email or contact me via LinkedIn. Thank you very much for your interest, and happy to hear from you.